I don't think the Department of Justice has credibility with the American people because, you know, they've lost it because they used to be independent under every other administration. And now they seem to be an arm of the administration.
Now, this coming week is expected to deliver a crucial moment in US politics when the House votes on whether to release the Jeffrey Epstein files. Now, it's already driven a wedge between Donald Trump and one of his fiercest allies, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who stood with victims of ex-offender Jeffrey Epstein and joined Democrats in demanding a vote to release all the files. Well, let's speak now to Gloria Allred, a lawyer who represents more than 20 survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. Gloria, thanks for giving us your time. Welcome to the show. Gloria, can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, there we go. We've got you now. Gloria, what do you make of all that has come out so far? We saw a tranche of tens of thousands of emails come out last week. What did you make of what you saw?
Well, I don't think we have the complete story because, first of all, we don't have the complete files. The United States Department of Justice could turn over all of the investigative and prosecutorial files on Jeffrey Epstein. They have at one point indicated they would do so. At another point, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, appointed by President Trump, indicated they weren't going to turn over all the files. Now Congress is intervening, and there will be a vote on the floor this week as to whether there should be the United States Department of Justice should turn over all the files. Then that has to go to the United States Senate for a vote, and then it may have to go to President Trump for a vote, and he's indicated resistance to that. However, there can always be a change in politics. There are always surprises. We don't know if we'll have all the files, is my point. We do have thousands of pages. And of course, we have some emails from the thousands of pages. But in short, Republicans and Democrats and independents and all the polls think all the files should be turned over. And there's a question as to why there is resistance. Of course, there should be redaction of names of victims. But other than that, that's where we are. We're getting a kind of dribble of the information. And we can't put it all in context. But of course, in the court of public opinion, I think the majority of people feel as though something is being kept from them. And they wonder why.
Gloria, can you help us make a distinction? Because is there a difference to what we've seen released so far, which came from the Epstein estate, released by the Democrats, and what we are calling the Epstein files? When we refer to the Epstein files, are we talking about items such as testimony, videotapes, perhaps audio that is held by the FBI and the Department of Justice? Is that what we're talking about when we talk about release the files? Because I think there's some confusion sometimes when you get these big email dumps of, well, are those the files? Which are the files?
And that's a fair question. I think they want all the information. The question is, did the United States Department of Justice even subpoena all of the files, the emails, or other communications that Jeffrey Epstein made? And did they subpoena all of that? And if they did not, why not? And here is what we're hearing about that, because that would seem obvious to any attorney, that those would be subpoenaed either before the death, the mysterious death of Jeffrey Epstein while he was in custody, or after his death, or both. And this week, we heard that Todd Blanche, the Deputy Attorney General, who interviewed Ms. Maxwell while she was incarcerated after her conviction for sex trafficking, that he interviewed her, but he didn't have all of the Epstein files, which he appears to have indicated were not in the possession of the United States Department of Justice. He didn't have them when he interviewed her. And that's important because in the files, it appears that Ms. Maxwell may have, according to the emails, said something different than she may have said when he interviewed her. And so if they didn't subpoena all those files, why not? That's a very important question. Sometimes the question is more important than the answer. And I think that's the case here.
Gloria, earlier you described the process that needs to happen. We are going to get a vote on the floor of the House. Then that has to go to the Senate. And then it also has to be signed off, from what it sounds like, from the president. Are you hopeful that these files will see the light of day? Or do you think that President Trump's going to do everything he can to stop that from happening? Can he afford to do so? Because we talked earlier about Marjorie Taylor Greene. One of his staunchest supporters has now turned against him because she is supporting the release of those files. How do you see it playing out?
Well, I would like to say one thing, connecting what I said previously to your question now, which is, if it's true that the Department of Justice doesn't have all of the Epstein files from that the estate has, the estate of Jeffrey Epstein, why not? And if there is any redaction by the Department of Justice when they release the files they have, if they are all released, is anyone concerned that whatever they've redacted may in fact be unredacted or different in the Epstein files that the estate has, which have not been completely released? Of course, the administration is attacking the estate, saying they hid them or they didn't provide everything. Well, the estate is saying we provided everything to anybody who subpoenaed them. There's been a number of civil lawsuits. They turned over what they had in those civil lawsuits. And when Congress asked for the estate files on Jeffrey Epstein, they turned over everything to Congress. So that shows that they really aren't resisting because they've turned it over when they've been subpoenaed. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I'll leave that and to say that for the Department of Justice to turn over all the files, I think that's important. We're also having to have, though, a reliable narrator to try to put everything in context that's in those files, because it appears, there's some kind of code words going on here. For example, as you know, this week, one of the emails that was released was talking about the dog that didn't bark. Mm-hmm. Now, is that referring to President Trump or not? And so, again, the mystery continues. And, everything is a mystery in this case. There are no clear conclusions because there's not enough evidence. Of course, in the court of public opinion, anybody can conclude whatever they want, mm-hmm. whenever they want, however they want. There are no rules. This is the Wild West in terms of the internet, the court of public opinion. I'm a lawyer.
Yeah.
I want to see the evidence.
But Gloria, do you think
so I can't reach a complete decision.
Gloria, do you think you can see the evidence? Do you think you can see the evidence as long as President Trump is in office? Is there a legal way to force the release of those files, even if President Trump doesn't want those files to be released? We don't know if he does or he doesn't, but he keeps referring to it as the Epstein hoax, so one must assume that he doesn't. But is there a legal mechanism to force him to do so?
Well, we have a political war going on between the Democrats and the Republicans. And that battle is ugly and brutal and necessary, really, because we have a divided political opinion, and Democrats want to know everything, which is not surprising, and I think it's important. And there's been resistance by the Republicans to release the files, although some Republicans have indicated they are in favor, definitely a minority, for releasing the files. So we're going to get everything. I don't know. Again, who has enough credibility to put together as a narrative what in fact happened based on the thousands of pages
traditionally
that ultimately may be released?
Well, traditionally that would be the Department of Justice, or at least the FBI.
Well, it's not going to happen now. I don't think the Department of Justice has credibility with the American people because, they've lost it because they used to be independent under every other administration. And now they seem to be an arm of the administration, almost as though they're the, law firm for the administration, which has never been the case in the past. So no, I don't think they have credibility. I'll tell you what I feel would give them credibility is if the former prosecutors of Jeffrey Epstein and Ms. Maxwell would be called to testify before Congress and review all the files. However, one of the lead prosecutors was fired because she is the daughter of James Comey, who, was investigating the president.
Yeah.
But I have met her in the course of my representation of some of the Epstein victims. And I found her to be 100% professional.
Gloria,
and just called it like it is.
Gloria, I have to leave it there only because of time constraints, but thank you so much for giving us all this time. I really appreciate you joining us. Gloria Allred there, a lawyer representing more than 200 victims of Jeffrey Epstein.